So hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Graham, Marketing Chair and Board Member of Policy Pathways, and I want to welcome you to Policy Prospects. Policy Prospects is our new platform, and it offers early insights into public policy, public administration, and international affairs degree and certificate programs at colleges and universities across the country. And today, I'm happy to be joined by Ms. Michelle Stinson, who's the Assistant Director of Admissions for American University School of International Service. So welcome, Ms. Stinson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So I first want to, again, thank you for joining us and taking this time. And if you could, just tell us a little bit about your role at American University School of International Service, what it entails, and the location of your school as well.
Okay, great. So my role, I am an Assistant Director of Undergraduate Admissions at American University. So I basically chat with students in the DC, the Washington, DC, Virginia, and West Virginia areas. So I'll do high school visits, college fairs, just to tell them about American University, answer any questions they might have. Yeah, so we're in the Northwest region of the DC area. So about 4 miles from the White House. So with that, we love our campus specifically because, yes, it's in DC, and students will have access to the metro and everything through our unlimited Metro Pass that we give all students, but you're also kind of separated. So it's within a neighborhood, within the Timleytown neighborhood. So it's close, students love that it's close, but you still have that campus feel.
And I imagine with this type of program, particularly when we're talking about policy, a lot of students are excited to be in that area. I mean, it's policy central, I guess you could say, for our country.
Yes, most students, they'll hear about us through either like public affairs or our School of International Service. That really draws them in.
Nice. So speaking of students, tell us a little bit about the demographics of the students. What stands out to you about?
So when I'm reviewing an application or talking to students at their high school visits, I usually like to just push for students to give me their best foot forward as far as what are you interested in. It's not necessarily that students, even though we are in the DC area and many students are going to be interested in public policy and things like that, we also have students that have a wide array of interests, taking advantage of what their schools offer. So if your school offers AP or honors courses or subjects that you're interested in taking, if you want to challenge yourself within those subjects, that's going to be, it's going to look great on your transcript. So not so much as overburdening yourself, or so be wary of that, but really challenge yourself in those subjects that you're really interested in as well. That's going to be very important. And also, I think what's also important to mention is that you don't have to have a perfect GPA, but just that we look for upward trend. So especially just as you're adjusting to high school and things like that, do your best in your courses, but also we understand that that's not the only thing that stands out for students. So activity-wise, things that you're interested in. I know that a lot of students have been, just kind of anxious about this year and then last year, as we are still within a pandemic, how that might affect their activities or things like that. And I usually just tell students, however you spend your free time, just tell us about that. Even if it's that you and your friends created like a book club, or that you love graphic design, or that I've read applications this year talking about students who did more research about like public policy, international relations, things like that. Whatever you are interested in, just go forward in that. And that's what I want to know about. As far as test scores are concerned, we've been test optional for almost 11 years now. And if you want to send your test scores, if you have taken the SAT or ACT and you want to send that, you can. But if you decide not to, we're just not going to see the score. We'll just look at every other section of that application. And I'll just look through each section and take notes as to why you would do well in American universities. As far as the essay, I also encourage students to not feel as if they are writing something to impress me. I love to read an essay about a student who has their specific interest. Just yesterday, I read about a student interested in investing in the stock market. So basically, I want to know what you're passionate about and how maybe if it was a specific situation that meant a lot to you or that kind of changed your course or how you became interested in that thing, those things are going to be interesting to me. And just another bit about what we are looking for within the application, your recommendations, your letters of recommendation. So we usually require a counselor rec, and you can also submit 2 teacher recommendations. So that could be someone within your community in addition to those things. But if you're going to submit have a teacher recommendation submitted, usually recommend that junior or senior year timeframe, just so they are able to see some of your most recent, basically a teacher that has seen some of your most recent academic work. And with that, another thing that's important, just engaging with us. So I think one of the things that, as far as with the pandemic and not being able to be in person, for me, I am, my students are local, those that I read applications for, but also there are certain things where if you couldn't have gotten to campus, or maybe you just didn't have the time in your schedule, I do appreciate now how there are so many different ways to show your demonstrated interest. We just want students to be aware of the world, things that are happening in their community, outside their community, so that, after they graduate, they'll be able to contribute to that global community as well.
Talk to me a little bit about what program options do you have related to careers in policy?
So we have the School of Public Affairs, but then we also have the School of International Service. So students that are interested, we don't want students to fill pigeonholes as far as they don't have to declare their major until the end of sophomore year. And they can also double major. So they don't have to double major within the same school either. They could major in a government related field and also within School of International Service. So there's a lot of flexibility as far as that's concerned. Internships are also a big draw. Many students will intern on the Hill and be able to have that firsthand experience just to see if that's something that they're interested in. But the School of Public Affairs, we also have interdisciplinary majors as well. So that's going to be something that students are able to kind of just pick and choose between those different majors that might be something that they're really interested in. But it's pretty much open to the students, but also I do want to share with you, we have our website, We Know Success, and that talks about specifically where students, after they graduate, where they decide to work, where they intern as undergraduates, and where they study abroad. So with this website, it's kind of pick as you can choose it based off of, say we're in international studies now for the School of International Service, just looking at places where they end up working. So there's the U.S. internships also. So like the U.S. Department of State, just all these different aspects. The Embassy of the United Kingdom, Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. So it's kind of interesting in looking at like places or different specific opportunities that students will have, because it's a wide range, just based off of what they're interested in. And also with our faculty, they are also, very invested in what our students are doing and what they're learning and the research aspects. That's also a part of that AU curriculum. So it can be limitless, essentially.
What type of degrees and/or certificates are offered through the university?
Okay, so we have bachelor's degrees and then also grad programs. Is that kind of what you're meaning? Okay. So with that, students also have this option to, we have like the public policy, like 3-year program. So if a student's coming in and they know that they want to go into politics, or that's something that they're very interested in, they can apply specifically for that 3-year program. It's not going to be like the typical 4-year experience, because they're getting in, they already know what they want to go into as far as that field is concerned. So that's a separate application in addition to the Common App and the Coalition app for us. But then also, it's one of those things where if a student knows for sure that's what they want to do, that's a great option for them. But then there's also our 4-year programs, but then if a student knows that they want to get their grad degree from AU, there are certain, basically like kind of like 5-year programs. So within that junior year, a student, if they are interested in getting their master's within the School of Public Affairs or just in any of our schools and colleges on campus, we do have that opportunity. So then towards that senior year, they will start to take classes that are specific to the grad program as well as their undergraduate courses, to be able to have kind of like a hybrid to where they wouldn't be going to get their master's. It wouldn't be 2 additional years after they graduated. It'd be about 5 years. Then we also have our Washington School of Law as well. So there are plenty of opportunities to further their career just within a range of, if it's with the master's program, or if they're interested in the Peace Corps or things like that, there's going to be a lot of those kinds of opportunities for students.
Where do you find that most of your graduates, or at least many of them, go to pursue their careers? What tracks do they take once they leave you?
So some of our, as far as, I'm just going to pull this up specifically because I do want to give you specific locations that they end up working at. A lot of students end up coming because they're interested in working for the State Department or the federal government or things like that. So that's where you're going to get a lot of our graduates will end up working in those places. So, and I'll send you this link too, just to give you the specifics. So it's really interesting because you can kind of play with it as far as where students for the School of International Service specifically, where they end up working, their salaries, things like that. So the Peace Corps, the U.S. Air Force, it also says like the Army, excuse me, and there's just a huge range. American Lung Association, it's pretty limitless as far as the opportunities. And then students also decide to go abroad, to work abroad after they graduate as well.
So what I'm hearing is then a lot of your students have a variety of options, both in the social, public, and private sector, it sounds like.
Yes.
And I think that's key because have you experienced that more students than usual are entering the private sector, given so much of our nation's focus on policy?
Oh, could you repeat that second part of that question?
Well, I'm just thinking about how it's common that we would think that people with policy degrees or focus go into the social sector or in the public sector. But are you finding that you're starting to see more even go into the private sector as more companies are dealing with issues of policy themselves?
Yes, and just in the applications that I review, a lot of students might have a specific interest in not just working for the federal government or the state government, but also nonprofits, but just maybe a group that they have a specific kind of connection with. So it can also be to where they are interested in maybe within their hometown, kind of like certain businesses, things like that. But yeah, so it's a wide array. It's just nice to see though that our graduates are going to be prepared for either one. And then kind of depending on what they are interested in, or there will just be a wide range as far as opportunities and their experience they'll get. So with internships, figuring out if they do want to, intern on the Hill, or if it's something different, or with a nonprofit, they'll have opportunities to do at least one internship, and many partake in 2 or 3. So kind of figuring out what's going to be a good fit for them as far as the public or the private sector.
What is something that you want us to remember when it comes to American University's School of International Service? What do you want us to remember about it? And what is something that you want our audience to remember?
You're going to get a great experience within your major, but then also as you are an undergraduate student and grad students as well, you're going to have great relationships with your faculty. Also, while it can be competitive as far as just wanting to challenge yourself and push yourself, you're still going to feel the camaraderie of the student body. Students are working to better themselves than they were before. And I think it's just interesting how I feel like our faculty and staff are really knowledgeable of their fields, and they are very invested, not just in, making sure that students excel or that they learn something within their classes, but also that you're able to really just, the things that you're interested in, that you're able to research those things, that they're able to provide and kind of like open doors that maybe you wouldn't have had the opportunity to have experienced unless you were at American University. And they care, and they're going to show that they care. And that's also like, I appreciate how it has translated into the virtual learning and things like that. Just for me, so I work in the admissions office, but I'm also a grad student with the Literature, Culture, and Technology program. And so seeing how my advisors and my professors are willing to meet for office hours, but also go that extra step. You can tell that it's sincere, and that you'll get to have that experience as well as continuing to learn about those things that you're most passionate about.
Wow, and it's just interesting that you're also a student, which also is a very great connection for the young people watching, so they understand that you're not just talking about it, but actually living it. And so we want to thank you. This is Michelle Stinson, who is the Assistant Director of Admissions with American University's School of International Service. On behalf of Policy Pathways and our Prospect platform, we want to thank you for your time.
Thank you all.